Welcome, everyone. This is Karen Hung, CEO and founder of Silver Rock Consulting. Thank you for joining us for our solution series. Today, we are thrilled to have David Simnek, who is the co-founder and CEO of Soapbox. And I have known David for a number of years when he was at the earlier stages of starting off Soapbox. And boy, what a story and what a ride. David, why don't you give us a little thumbnail about your background and tell our audience a little bit about Soapbox?
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, thank you guys for having me on the show. And second, Soapbox is a story of perseverance, and also it's a story of building relationships of trust. So it starts back in 2010. I used to work for the United States Agency for International Development as a subcontractor, and I was the person who was researching new chief of parties, or basically the leaders of different projects that USAID would contract out for. So West African Trade Hub project, which was basically increasing trade throughout West African nations to either the US or other Western countries or whatever it might be. And our company would go out and bid on those projects. And I was the person who, if like there was a totem pole, I was the very bottom, like maybe not even like visible, probably in the dirt. And my role was to read these after action reports that were like 200, 300, 350 pages of all the projects that USAID or the World Bank or the IMF or whatever international development agency was doing. And then after a project would be completed, they would write this pretty big report of here's what we did, here's what we hope to do, this is where we may have fell short, here are the learnings that we had. And through this whole process, I just kept on finding that there was a lot of focus on water development, and there was growing amount of focus on sanitization, but there was this huge dearth when it comes to hygiene. So this is 2009, and I just was like, and the more that I looked into it, and the more statistics I researched into, and the more after action reports I read, the power of soap and clean water was just so simple in my eyes in terms of really solving a simple and preventable problem. And that is, if you allow children to have access to clean water and soap, you can prevent more than 50% of diarrhea illnesses, more than 33% of acute respiratory diseases. And those two alone are within the top 5 of reasons why children under the age of 5 die around the world. And the numbers are staggering. And I think for us, and when I say us, I mean the early team, we're just like, look, this is a very easy to solve problem. Like it's not only access, but it's education about the importance of hand washing after you defecate and before meal prep. So we started this company in 2010 with the sole purpose of every time someone buys one of our products, we donate a bar of soap. So you buy Soapbox at Rite Aid or Wegmans or CVS or Walgreens or on Amazon or Grove or Boxed or Walmart.com or Meijer or HEB or anywhere, right? So like go to your local store, and if you see this, or if you see like a shampoo, a conditioner, a body wash, something like that, anything you buy with the Soapbox name on it, that means that we're donating a bar of soap. So to date, we've donated 10 million bars. This year alone, we'll donate another 13 million. So it took us 10 years to donate 10 million, and we'll donate more than that in 1 year. And that probably is a little indicative in terms of our growth. But the long and short is we started this for the mission, and that's been the thread line that stayed consistent. Pretty much everything else has changed, but the mission has stayed exactly the same from day one.
Well, you've had a lot of transformation, a lot of things are on your core. I remember, David, early on when I knew you, you also talked about, in addition to health, soap gives a lot of human dignity. So you didn't mention that. I'd love for you to just tell our audience a little bit of the thinking around that.
So this is such an amazing interview because you're like, you forgot a really important point. So
it's only because I've known you over the years.
No, Karen, I appreciate it. It's awesome. So I think one of the things that really has surprised us is as we've expanded our efforts with local homeless shelters and food pantries, the dignity that hygiene brings. Like it's pretty self-evident. Like you feel better after taking a shower, you feel rejuvenated after you take a bath. And being able to provide that to homeless shelters and food pantries has been just an incredible, humbling honor that our whole team takes incredibly seriously. But I think the especially now during COVID with our charitable partners, the fact that we're able to support them in a very significant way is the best part of the job. Like it's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. I remember you all very recently, I think, gave over 1 million bars of soap locally, or not domestically, I should say, to the homeless during COVID. And I loved your social media posts. You said, because we can and we will, something like that. It was really powerful.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I would love to touch on the two things that you talked about, which is perseverance and trust. Say more about that and how you've grown Soapbox.
So it's interesting because perseverance is I feel like this is an amazing show and tell rack, like right behind me. It's just like everything that I need to grab is within arm's distance. It's like I did this on purpose. So this is what Soapbox used to look like. And you don't need to be in the consumer products world to realize that this does not look as good as this. Okay. One, this kind of looks like automotive cleaner or maybe pet shampoo, or like you're a design student and this is like your first semester project. So we affectionately call this like Dave's friend who had a Photoshop account, because it was. And this was about 13 months of working with a design agency and testing every assumption that we had. And the firm is fantastic. They're called Anthem. They're based up in New York. We absolutely enjoyed loving working with them. But I think the perseverance part comes from when we launched this, we got this into a bunch of really big stores in 15 and 16. And by 17, because it doesn't look that good, we got the right product, we got the right price point, we had the right mission, we had so many parts of the puzzle there, except we made such a big mistake on branding. And the hard part about CPG is, unlike tech, you can't change on a dime. Mm-hmm. Like you can't overnight redesign the whole site. Like once you have product on a major retailer's shelf, you're either going to have to pay a lot of money to help discount it and change it, or you have to wait till the next reset and then pay a lot of money to discount it and then change it. Mm-hmm. Either way, those mistakes, if you're a small enough company, can kill you. Mm. And there are multiple times where we thought that we were done. Mm. So we thankfully have phenomenal investors that care about our mission, I think equally as much as they care about us. And I think, like, if I were to say this all over again, it is that, or do this all over again, I'd pick the same investors because our shareholders have just been phenomenal. And I think there was a time where we had an acquisition offer in 2017. It wasn't good. And the more that we went through the whole deal and the due diligence with them, it continued to get worse. So it came to this point where we knew what our sales were on this, and we had reports showing us how good this would do at market. And we decided to, as the deal kept on getting worse and worse and worse, we just said, you know what, we're going to launch this. And we went to our board and our investors, and they were like, look, if you think this is going to work, we trust you. And I will never, ever forget that. So that's perseverance. There were many times which we were like a week or 2 weeks of going out of money. And then I think the other thing is when it comes to trust. So as your viewers or listeners are well aware, COVID has done a number on pretty much any market, period. And there are fewer winners, and unfortunately, a lot more people who have been hurt negatively from this. So, if you're in the personal care space, you're probably seeing a positive effect happen. For us, because we made liquid hand soap, and because of the partnerships that we had an early tip off. There's this pretty significant coffee chain that's headquartered in Seattle. And we've been working with them for the past 18 months about switching over their soap to ours, because we thought that there was a huge alignment on mission and values, and that there was a big opportunity to tell the story about how this significant worldwide coffee chain was making a difference, not only in the coffee that they source, but also in the soap that they bought. Mm-hmm. And because of that relationship and trust, and pun intended, the many cups of coffee that we had together and broken bread together, when this all started to happen, they reached out to us in February and said, "Do you make hand sanitizer?" And we were like, "No, we don't, but it's in the product pipeline, so we can make it for you." And they're like, "Let us get back to you." So the first week of March, they wrote again and were like, "Now we need you to make hand sanitizer." Mm-hmm. And we're like, "Give us 24 hours. And then the next day, we were on the phone with Wegmans, where they wanted to order 50,000 units of this, which isn't like, that's not a game changing order, but it's a big enough order, like on our radar, to be like, huh. So we knew that COVID was coming. We just started to see everything really start to tick up end of February and the first week of March. So on the call that we had with them about, hey, we're going to send you 50,000 liquid hand soaps, we then asked, okay, so, do you guys need hand sanitizer as well? And they were like, "Oh, you guys make hand sanitizer, we'll take 1 million. Wow. And we're like, sorry, wow. What? So very quickly, we went from this hand sanitizer basically being in the pipeline into going full on production from
bestseller
pipeline to 13 million units in about 3 months. So amazing. We went from 1 factory to 7, all in the United States, throughout the United States. Mm-hmm. And I think, the other thing to play off the trust part is Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Stop and Shop, Giant, Harris Teeter, Unknown Coffee Company, Ascendant. Ascendant is huge. Ascendant is the world's largest office distributor that you've never heard of. So when you order through Costco, Office, or certain products in there, or Walmart.com, or Staples, or Office Depot, or WB Mason, when you order through there, you're usually actually getting it from Ascendant. They're just slapping it in the box of the retailer that you're ordering in. Wow. All of those and more were customers that basically came out of nowhere and said, "We trust you because you've been around for 10 years and we've met with them enough times, or we were currently a vendor of theirs." And all of that went from 0 to 100 in weeks. So
it's amazing. Well, what I'm hearing in your story, David, that it wasn't an overnight thing, but it was 10 years in the making of diligence and integrity and rigor and delivering on your promises that got you to today, even though the hockey stick happened in the last few months.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Well, there's so many directions we could take this conversation. One is, how are you all working through what we're seeing as 3 pandemics, right? The COVID health, the economic, and also the social justice. So, if you wouldn't mind, just touch on all 3 briefly for us, as far as how you personally and also how Soapbox is going through this.
Yeah. So I think the economic one is the easiest one to talk about. We decided not to take any PPE because we felt like it was wrong. And actually, there were a couple of our shareholders that questioned us on that. And this was like, this was early on, so they hadn't started to see the numbers, but we saw all the purchase orders coming in. And I very firmly put my foot down. Usually I like to be a lot more of a consensus builder. right? Or collaborative, and I was just like, no, because our payroll isn't that big, and the opportunities that are coming in are far greater. And more importantly, I want to look at myself in the morning and know that I did the right thing, and this isn't right. So, and also in the PPE loan, you have to check a box that says you've been negatively affected. Impact Driven Brands, which is the holding company, owns a couple different brands. All of them are up. So under no scrutiny, more importantly, under like my own ethical code of which I respond to someone greater, that, So the economic one, I think for us was, I had to tell a couple of our shareholders that there's no way in blank that we're filling out this form. On a COVID aspect, we feel a great sense of honor in being able to supply. In the early days, we supplied some hospitals. I distinctly remember there was a procurement manager for a hospital group of which we said that we could get her hand sanitizer, and she started crying on the phone. And I will never, ever forget that.
Wow.
Ever.
It's all the lives you're impacting, right? That your business, your team is impacting.
Team. Yeah. So it's not that I can't accept the compliment. It's that I know that I am one person, a part of a phenomenal team. And like, I sound like a broken record because my team tells me to stop praising the team so much, ironically, all the time. But seriously, like I can't stop because they're just so good. And it's just so amazing to see, like, when like teams are in flow and everyone's just able to really hit all cylinders, and you feel like there's no politics and there's no ego, and people are constructively criticizing each other to try to make a better product in the end. Like, all of that has really been fostered. And I think more importantly, I made a couple mistakes in the past about letting the wrong people in to the bus. So now we're incredibly careful, and we have a pretty rigorous process of trying to weed out someone who we don't feel like is up to snuff.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like. Go ahead.
No, please.
Well, I was going to say at Silver Rock, we really believe so much in unleashing others' greatness, unleashing people's greatness and teams' greatness, and we all believe everyone has some brilliance. So, and we look to find that brilliance to leverage it, and it's so fun. Isn't it amazing when that happens and it all comes together?
It's just awesome.
Yeah.
Like
so
when it's in flow, it's just remarkable.
Yeah.
So finally, the last one, which is near and dear to me, which is social justice. We as a company, I think pretty early on, put out a statement that Soapbox was started, and even the name was carefully chosen as a place where a consumer could feel like they're making a difference. We invited people to stand on their soapbox with us in order to advocate for what they believe in. So for me, I think that I have always felt like that I have immense privilege as a white male, and I actually, what happened with George Floyd and what's happened with all the other names that, fortunately or unfortunately have turned into a hashtag, like, that is awful. But the response, and thus the change, and I think that's the most important part, is that there actually has been tangible change, has been just so refreshing to see. So the fact that Alabama changed its state's flag, and that NASCAR did what it's done, and the fact that so many companies were able to assert that Black lives do matter, that's amazing. So I think for us, companies do need to take a stand. and you're never going to please everyone. And we sent out some emails and we put out our views as a company that we stood with Black Lives Matter. And we got a couple angry emails, but that's okay. Because honestly, like, that's what we believe. And we need to live the original principles that we started for Soapbox. And that's just about trying to do as much good as we can, and acknowledging that there are very serious issues still within our country that perpetuate systemic racism is following those principles. So hope I answered your question.
Yeah, very thoughtful answer. And I share with you the sense I have in the market and in our communities and our society that there's a seriousness around change. And for me, the transformation happens when those in power, right, are the ones who are deciding along with to make the change. So I am very optimistic around that, even though there's a ton of work ahead of us and it won't go away overnight. Well, we are seeing change, immediate change has challenged history. And I do think there's also what's coming around is a balance as well. So I think that's been good to see. You know, David, as I think about your marketplace and what you stand for as an individual, what you stand for as a company, and what your products stand for, I know you started Soapbox, as you've already alluded to, as a social enterprise. I'm kind of curious around the power of the decision maker, the consumer who's the decision maker. And I remember a conversation that we were having a few years ago that, first of all, it's about the market need, or at least, understanding what that market needs. Second of all, the product, right? The second decision is the product, that the product has to be right. And then the third is the cause. Would you just kind of expand on that a little bit around how you see consumers making decisions and how they can affect, not only their personal decisions, but as we're talking about social justice, maybe larger systemic desires for change with simple day-to-day decisions.
I think you're seeing it with Facebook right now. So when major advertisers decide to pull their advertising, and people vote with their dollar. Mm-hmm. They also vote with their vote, which is, in my opinion, equally, if not just as equally as important. Yeah, there's no caveat to that. There's no asterisk. It's just like, no, voting is incredibly important. But voting with your dollar also can have significant impact, and corporations, they'll change that. So for us, I look at this two ways. There's been a lot of research showing from Harvard Business Review, as well as a couple other, I read a Wall Street Journal article about this, and I'll see if I can find it for you. But that companies are actually not penalized if they take a super stance. Like, look at the crazy things that Patagonia has done in terms of refusing to sell their jackets to certain banks. And you're just like, what? Like, how? Like, I personally would not do that. I think everyone needs soap. But I think that companies that really take a strong stance, and this might depend on the vertical they're in, but are rewarded by their fans endearing even more loyalty to that particular brand, because it's helping crystallize what that brand means, especially lifestyle brands. So for us, the way that we look at this, first and foremost, in the categories we play in, is this is liquid hand soap. First and foremost, you need to win in everything that she or he wants in liquid hand soap. That's design, that's fragrance, that's feel, that's price point, that's value, that's place. So where is it? How is the retailer supporting us? How are we supporting that retailer? How are we building brand awareness around this? Like, how do we position ourselves? So we're a natural product. So Does that then mean that we have to be twice as expensive or 3 times as expensive? What does it mean if we're only 50% more expensive, right? What does that mean to the consumer? And then how much more market penetration can we get if we actually are at that price point instead of being at a much more unattainable price point? Those are all the things that we obsess about first and foremost. The cause, as you just mentioned, which is the reason we started the company in the first place, is the cherry on top for the consumer, because they're there to buy an amazing shampoo or conditioner, right? So like, for example, we're launching these two in about a week.
Oh, let's see.
This is our Argan Oil Smoothing Serum Anti-Frizz. And this is our Tea Tree Soothing Scalp Treatment.
That's great. All right, folks, you saw it here pre-launch.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Hey, so I almost feel like one of those QVCs where like all of a sudden a little like lower third pops up here, like 3 easy payments of, well, these are $9.99. So it'd be really, really easy payments. But anyways, so what's really interesting about this is like nowhere on this front pack are we actually talking about our mission. And that's not a bad thing, right? Like if a consumer, it says it all on the back. Like on each one of our products, there's actually something called the Hope Code, which we were one of actually the first mission-driven companies to do this, where you can actually take this code to our website, put it in, and see exactly what the other one-for-one went. And we want to provide that transparency so you can kick our tires, but also so that other, like our consumers, can realize the impact that they're doing and get to know about the NGO that they're supporting. But honestly, only 2% of people actually go and put in their Hope Code, which is way more than we originally expected. But that doesn't change the point that like they're there to buy. She, and predominantly she in our hair care categories is usually who's buying us, wants to stop frizz. That's the objective. Don't get in front of what she is there to make a purchase for. And I don't blame her, right? Like, because I think a majority of people, when they're in a store trying to do their grocery shopping for their family, or because they have to go to work, or they have to run off to their whatever, like just make it super easy for them. And then when they find out that, hey, this is doing good, that's the stickiness that brings them back again and again and again. And I think, so we talked to Tom's, we talked to Warby Parker, we talked to Bombas, and we continue to keep a close circle with all these purpose-driven companies, because now surprisingly we're in their revenue range, which is just mind-blowing. That's awesome. But yeah, well, we started at 0.
Listen, as a founder or co-founder, starting from ground zero, it's a lot. It's a big, heavy lift. You're working all sorts of muscles at all times of the day and night, and it's amazing to see traction. And I bet it's got to be rewarding for you to see the movement and the growth.
I think one of the things that is the how do I say this? One of the things that is most exciting about what we do is like when we're able to really support both our retail partners as well as the end result is when we're really able to get behind our aid partners. And that, like, that's a dream come true. That's super cool. When we're able to like really like just move the dial, no pun intended, but like really like shift consumers like choices in terms of them making healthier decisions, things free of like parabens and EDTA and sulfates or whatever it might be, like that's pretty cool. So that's
very cool. Well, you sound like you have a ton of guiding principles that have been just embedded in, intertwined in not only who you are, but also who Soapbox is. As we're starting to wind up our time, what last parting words would you like to share with our audience today?
For any intra or entrepreneur that wants to start something within their organization or start something, it could be a non-for-profit, it could be just like, leading your daughter or son's organization, whatever it might be. The biggest thing that I've seen in successful entrepreneurship is a determination to consistently like just continue that iteration cycle. And so one of the things that really has shown through for me is a lot of the people who got into entrepreneurship to make a lot of money usually fizzle out. This is just my experience, because the payback often is just so long, and there are much wiser decisions you can make to be financially rewarded in a faster way. But the entrepreneurs who are just stubbornly committed to learn from their mistakes faster than those mistakes can kill their idea, those are the people that I see really make something of their dreams.
Well, David, there's a few words that come to mind as I think about you. So I'll just end us with a couple of these words. One is certainly fortitude. We talked about perseverance. I hear so much integrity and character, and not only who you are, but how you've evolved Soapbox to be and the team. And so it's been amazing. And then the last one I'll end with now is conviction. You have just so much conviction, and it just shows through in terms of being intentional about what you create, who you support, what you stand for. And it's really powerful. So congratulations to you and the team. It's an amazing journey. I know it hasn't been easy, but I really applaud you for all your integrity, for your conviction, your perseverance, and your dogged determination. So congratulations.
Karen, thank you. I know I said this before, but it's 100% a team effort. I just make sure everyone here has coffee.
Oh, that's good. What kind of coffee? Is it good coffee?
There's a retailer in Seattle that may or may not have sent us a couple cases. Yeah.
Wow.
But they're fantastic.
Wow, what a journey! Bravo, what a journey!
Thank you. We're just getting started, in our opinions. So we're looking forward to 2021.